We'll go ahead and get started. It's 5:30. Sounds like our sound system is working, so anybody have trouble hearing me? I mean, I've talked real loud. Thanks, Mike, for getting this all set up. Thank you all so much for coming and listening to this proposal. And we are definitely trying to make sure that in this discussion, and I need to say that over and over again, decisions will not be made until April. We are just in the discussion phase of this, and so I appreciate you coming out to hear the information. Let me show you where we kind of got started with this. And so what you see now is our set of Caldwell Parish District norms. And this is what we created about 2 years ago when we started going through the district strategic planning. And so that process was about setting up a 5-year plan for what we wanted the Caldwell Parish School District to look at. At that time, you probably should have received some surveys or were in focus groups, and we were collecting all kinds of information. And as a result of that, we had to create a set of norms. And so I think it's very important that you see where we start every time we make decisions for kids. And our very first norm is that we focus on students first. And it's first for a reason, because that's why we're here. We make decisions that are in the best interest of our students because that's why we're here. And so that's number one every time we get together. Number two is that we measure what matters. If it's a priority, we're going to find a way to measure it and monitor progress in order to provide support for the most important work. And that is part of the reason why we do so much with literacy now. We're really working hard on the things that matter, and so we measure what matters. Number three is going to be a big one for us tonight. Remain open-minded. We're willing to think and act in innovative ways in order to impact student learning and growth. And that's not always an easy thing for us to do, is because we do like things the way they've always been. It's comfortable, and change is hard. But that's important to us that we don't get stuck in a rut just because it's the way things have always been. The fourth bullet is communicate openly. We think it's very important that we express ourselves honestly. We make group decisions and we implement those decisions collectively to ensure success. If we're not honest with each other, we're just pretending. And part of that is why you're here today, is because we need to hear from you the pros and cons as you hear this proposal. And then we seek transparency and clarity. We set clear expectations, we communicate our purpose, and support one another with our vision. I don't ever want anybody to think that we're trying to slide something by or that we're trying to sneak something through. We are trying very hard to be open and transparent. And if you feel like we're not, I'm very willing to hear what things you think we're not, because we seriously are trying to be open and transparent. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to our presentation. And so I ask you just to hear this out and know that at the end of it, we will have an opportunity for you to voice your concerns. Got some microphones if we need to say something to make sure everybody is heard. You will also have an opportunity to fill out a survey. So be thinking of the questions as we go through this information that you may have about this proposal. Again, it is a proposal. We're just in the beginning, the decision making here. And so with this proposal, I put this quote on here: courage is the power to let go of the familiar. It takes a lot of courage for us to even have this discussion, because we knew that bringing it up was going to be like, oh my God, this is different, this is change. And so it's very important to us that we at least open up the opportunity to have a conversation about this. So in discussing this proposal, there are 4 areas that we have identified. Number 1, there are some hard facts that we have to deal with. Number 2, it's a possible solution. 3, an exciting opportunity. And then 4, the identified hurdles. And we know there are going to be hurdles. I read all about them on Facebook, and I've heard of them all. So we absolutely know that there are. Don't want to pretend like there's not. So the hard facts that we have to deal with at the central office when you think about all schools. Something that I've not had to deal with until this year is the fact that we have 5 elementary positions that are either covered with a long-term sub or a paraprofessional, or there's not even filled, okay? So we've always kind of fought with the teacher shortage, and at one point it was getting certified teachers, but I've never not been able to put somebody in a classroom who at least had a bachelor's degree and could get into a program. This is the first year that we have not been able to do that. And there are 5 positions spread out across the elementaries where we could not fill those positions. And let me tell you, these people are doing a rock star job, but they have absolutely no training, and they're relying on just the support that they can get from their teacher friend down the hall who may or may not teach the same thing that they do. And so it's a place that we've not been before. I actually I knew this would happen. I actually owe Grayson Elementary another spot, but we don't have the room and we can't find a body to put in that spot. And so that's where these conversations start coming up at the district level about how can we do that. And so it's a real conversation we have to deal with. Another issue is medical leave, and it happens. People get sick, and so even in those positions we have long-term subs. And those subs may or may not be supported by other people. So that's just one of the hard facts we have to deal with. So another is their school enrollment numbers. And so at Columbia Elementary, we currently have 240 students. At Union Central, we have 145. And at Grayson, we have 285. I didn't realize this until I started going out and making school visits. And when I started going to schools, and I was like, oh my gosh, at one school there's just tons of kids. And you can't even get them through the cafeteria line at breakfast. They're wrapped around the building. And then you go to another school and you're like, is everybody absent? How many kids are here? And so I came back to the school board office and I had Ms. Gillette run the numbers, and I looked at it and I thought, this is crazy. There's almost 100 more kids at Columbia than Central, and there's 135 more kids at Grayson. So what happens here is when you look at it like that, you've got some classrooms that are overcrowded and some that are not. And so that's when the topic came up and said, well, you know, if we had center schools or had everybody together, we would not have this problem. And so we avoid these conversations where we have with second grade classes, and I'll just be honest, at Grayson, there's 24 kids in each class. At the same grade level, I think there's 24 at Columbia, and then you get to Central and there's 12. And so you're like, that's not equally distributed at all. And Miss Smith says when people walk in, she's like, oh, please don't be a second grader, you know, because you don't know. And so we start talking about if we did this and we could equally distribute it, you wouldn't have those problems. And I'm going to get on the next page tell you why we have this, or one of the reasons why we have this problem. But I need you to know that it is a problem. We have overcrowded classrooms. As a matter of fact, I put all the grade levels out, and I looked, and in 5 different grade levels at Grayson, there are over 20 kids, closer to 24. And the same thing's happening at Columbia in 2 different grade levels. And at Union Central, they're not. And so you're just like, this really is not fair. I mean, I don't know how you feel about your kid or your grandkid being in a classroom with 25 kids, but that's a lot. It's a lot for a teacher to handle, and they don't get the one-on-one support that we want them to have. And so when you look at that as a whole picture, you can't ignore it. I can't unsee it. And part of the reason for that is school choice. And so the state has a school choice policy, and they required us to pass it last year, that if you have a school that has a D or an F, parents can request enrollment at another school. And it's kind of been in the background for a while, and we've been doing it, but last year they made us publicize it, and put that information, and I have to report those numbers back to the state. For everybody who requests, I have to grant them the right to do that, and I have to report to the state how many I turn down and how many I allow to go. And so that has opened up the door for students to leave Union Central and go to other schools, which has caused an overcrowding problem at the other schools. And it's just the nature of what has happened here is I can't say no. And I try everything I can to bring your kid here, but anybody who wants to has overcrowded those other schools. And the other piece that I just kind of looked at was the economic impact, is that when you start looking at per pupil amounts that you're spending, it's very uneven across the district based on the number of students that are there. So it doesn't matter how much money I pour into a school or how much state aid they get, it's not going to fix this problem if people are leaving and overcrowding other schools. So those are just the hard facts that we have to deal with. So at that time, as we're sitting around the table and we're talking about these things, we go back to the idea of center schools. And so I do want to be transparent again. This is not the first time we've talked about this. We talked about it, I want to say it was 10 years ago. I know I was still the principal at Union Central. And at that time, Union Central was the highest performing school in the district. But Ms. Tillette came in as our superintendent, and she took us all on a field trip. And she said, we want to go visit the #1 school district in the state. And so we all hopped in the First Baptist Church van, and we drove down to Zachary. I don't know if it's Zachary Community School District, I think it's what it is. And we were just going to check out what do they do in the top performing schools district. And when we got there, we saw that their setup was a K1. A 2-3, a 4-5, and the teachers just talked about how wonderful it was that you had 6 or 7 of each grade level that they were able to tailor their instruction to, and that they were able to support each other. And so each little center was totally devoted to lower elementary or totally devoted to upper. And so we thought it was a great idea then. We talked about it, and no, it was not going to happen. So we left it. But then when we started having these conversations about the facts we're dealing with now, it was brought up, it may be time to talk about this again, because we can't fix it any other way. And someone asked me the other day, what's your plan B? And I'm like, this is my plan B. Because I promise you I wouldn't have come here if we could have fixed it any other way, and we have been trying. So the idea came to restructuring the schools into grade bands. And so what we have here is based on the enrollment for next year. So like I bumped the pre-K kids up to kindergarten and moved everybody over. And so what you can see is that the total number of students across is 110, 115, 112, 110. There was a baby boom for these 4th graders, now 3rd, moving into 4th. But then 5th grade is a little bit less. And so if I'm looking at trying to make an ideal class size, I divide it by how many teachers, and so what it ends up being is that we would need about 6 teachers per grade level to make that happen and even out those class sizes. Now when you get to 4th and 5th, you'd have to swap, and sometimes you have to do that because there are different groups of kids that are larger than others. But for the most part, what it does is it puts 235, 222, and 226. Which are very manageable numbers for our schools. I know that when I was at Union Central, we usually had between 220 to 230. We got up to 250 one time during Katrina, I believe it was. So I'm dating myself. But that really levelizes the student population at each school. And so that's just what it would look like in the grade bands. So 2 immediate benefits that we would have as a school system if we did this addresses the teacher shortage. If we still cannot find teachers, we can equally distribute students to remaining teachers without an increase in size. That's not really the plan I would like, but what I'm thinking is if we have to have a paraprofessional or someone who is a long-term sub, just say in a 2nd grade class, at least that person would be teaching with 5 other second grade teachers, and they could provide her support, because they're going to open up opportunities for them to plan together. Your interventionists are going to be able to work on just second and third grade levels, so kids are not going to fall through the cracks, because we're able to really focus in on those grade levels. The other benefit that I see is growth. And so we're looking down the line, and I know that several of you have probably heard of the green fuels plant that's coming in. And a lot of the conversations we're having is 5 years down the road, or actually 3 is when we're supposed to start looking at the construction. That's going to bring in more people. And when people want to move here, where are they going to build? Where are they going to want to locate? And a lot of times they're looking at schools. They do. They look at what schools. And so you start looking at, can Columbia handle that much growth? Can Grayson handle that much growth? You don't know, but if we restructure, it doesn't matter how many, because we can. Because it's much easier to put in 5 new kindergartners if you're separating them into 6 classes. But if 5 new kindergartners come into a school that only has 2 kindergarten, those numbers go up faster. And so this plan would allow us to plan for growth that's down the road. And I know that each building has the capacity for distributed growth, because those numbers that we have there are very manageable numbers to grow with. So then we shift, and so it's like, okay, if this is an answer, what are the opportunities? So what are all the benefits that could come from restructuring? So our plan, our idea, and this is not set in stone, it could change. If that's the deal breaker, we can work on that. But our thought was we would make Grayson Elementary the kindergarten and first grade center. The reason for that is twofold. Number one, the principal there has a very strong early childhood background, because Delinda taught for 13 years at the pre-K and then did the Head Start, so very strong in early childhood. The other thought there is that I know that there's a concern about little ones being on the bus for a long time. No matter where you live in the district, you send your pre-K kids to this campus. Grayson is 3/10 of a mile down the road, so you're not adding a lot to their bus drive. They're already coming here, we're just going to move on down the road. And so that was the reason that we thought Grayson made sense to be the kindergarten and first grade center. The other selection was Columbia being 4-5, and the reason for that was because Miss Gilpatrick has a secondary background. She came from the junior high, so she knows what's expected at the next level. And so we thought that would be the perfect place to have our 4th and 5th graders. And then if we looked at transportation, and we don't really know what that's going to look like yet, but if we had to, that would be the longest route, and our bigger kids could handle it. So that was our thought process. And then Union Central being the 2nd and 3rd, Miss Gregory has taught kindergarten through 5th grade, and so she's comfortable with any age level, and you just kind of would go down the hill from K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just our thought process. It's not what we have to do, and if there are any concerns about this, we're certainly open to hearing that. It's just what we're thinking. And so this page right here is probably one of my most favorite, in that from day one, I've always been about Team Caldwell and about the unity of this parish. We are very unique in that every kid in this parish comes to junior high and high school together. We all finish together, and that's, y'all, I only can think of one other district that's like that, and that's Red River Parish. If anybody knows of another one, please tell me, because I'll start quoting that too. But most parishes do not have one high school. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love Caldwell so much, is because we all become family and we're all together. And so when you think about it, our students begin their journey at Caldwell Parish Pre-K, and now if anybody wants to go to Kelly, and they can, so they begin together, and then they come back together in 6th through 12th grade. And so doing this would allow our students to stay together all the way through. And so when they stay together, you don't have the growing pains that you would get or have in 6th grade. And I love how Miss Gilpatrick says it. She says, You throw them all back together after 6 years when they're at the most awkward time of their lives, and they struggle. And she knows that they struggle, just adjusting to that, because you have those are the Grayson kids, or those are the Central kids, or those are the Columbia kids. I have a good friend that I never even thought about this before, but she grew up in a district like this, in Gina, because in Gina, this is what they do. Kindergarten, Gina Elementary, Good Pine Middle School, Gina Junior High, Gina High School, and she had always transitioned throughout her entire life. And my husband transitioned like that too. But she said when they moved here and she brought her son to school, she was like, he's going to be here for the whole time on campus with these 5th graders. So when he went to junior high, he had a hard time adjusting because he had never transitioned before. And I'd never even thought about that, but this eliminates all that anxiety, not all of it, I'm sure there's still anxiety, because that's the age, but it eliminates the I don't know who I'm going to be in a class with. I'm just going to be with my same friends, just at a different building, and we've done this all the way through. So I thought that was a very insightful piece of information. This would allow our students to attend school with their church friends, their ballpark friends, any of their family and friends, regardless of their address. And so I've heard from the pre-K when it gets time for March or April to roll around, everybody's like, oh my goodness, where's my kid? Is he going to this school? Is he going to this school? He wants to be with his friends. It doesn't matter anymore. And then something that's not even on here is, y'all, we have a lot of transient kids in this parish. A lot of kids who move from school to school to school based on their housing. This eliminates any of that problem. It keeps that consistency for our kids, regardless of where they live. And probably the most important thing that I believe in is that growing up together with diversity as part of everyone's life contributes to unity, understanding, and acceptance of others. And when I say this, I'm talking about all kinds of diversity. I'm talking about race. I'm talking about socioeconomic level. I'm talking about students with disabilities. There are all kinds of kids that we have in this district, and it allows them to acclimate to the social norms together as a group. And that's probably the most beautiful thing about this plan in my mind. So another exciting opportunity that is able to happen is art and music. And art and music is something I would love for our kids to have. Kids in every other district, not every other district, but in many other districts have this opportunity, but it costs money to hire additional staff, and we don't have that money right now to do that. But if we restructure and we need those 6 teachers across, it frees up 2 positions that are already being paid for, that we could have a full-time art and music teacher at every one of our schools. And so then your kid will have art. What we're thinking is probably art 2 days a week, music 2 days a week. They'll have PE like they do now, and computer lab. And so you have all those fun, well-rounded experiences for your kids all the way through school. And then whoever at the 4th and 5th grade level, and I've got to figure this out, I've talked to our band director about this, but Ian Lee is building our band program up. Right now he has all of junior high and all of high school. I would love for that 4th and 5th grade music teacher to also do the 6th grade band so that we can transition those students. And we can start identifying students who have those abilities earlier on. And the choir teacher can work with this too, so that we are actually giving our kids opportunities that they may not have had before. Another opportunity is for our special education teachers. And I know that this is we've learned a lot since I talked to teachers last Friday, but the idea is that we would have a special ed teacher for each grade level. That may look the same, it may look different at each school based on numbers, but by allowing teachers to concentrate on just 1 or 2 grade levels, they're going to better be able to support our students. Because right now, your special education teachers are having to learn ELA, math, science, and social studies for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and sometimes 3rd grade. If you've got 4 grade levels times 4 subjects, that's almost impossible to be able to provide for our students. You also then, if you're set up like this, it would allow our special education teacher to sit in on grade level planning with their content teachers. Right now, a special education teacher can't do that because you may have kindergarten teachers meeting and then first grade, second grade, third grade. If your SPED teacher was going to do that, they wouldn't be in class all day long. So now you can pull in your special education teacher and they can be planning and talking about your kids at the same time, every day, every week. No teachers, I didn't mean planning every day, I'm just saying. You know, at least you have that opportunity there. And so you start looking at all the possibilities. One thing that was brought up in the surveys last Friday that I had not thought about was there may be some need to loop teachers. And so a SPED teacher may or may not, we may decide you're with them third grade and then you move to fourth grade and that way you've got them 2 years. But we don't have it all figured out because we're going to have to depend on our teachers to help tell us this will work or this don't work and what's the best option for us here. Okay, teacher collaboration, and so by doing this at each grade level, you've got all your kindergarten together, all your first grade together, your teachers will be able to common plan and analyze student data together and work together as a team. This will look a little bit different for our lower elementary because obviously you can't take all 6 of your kindergarten teachers out at the same time, but you could probably do 3 and 3, and so at least you've got pods of that. And then on like movie days, you could pull everybody together and swap out with your, like first grade teachers meet at this time and then kindergarten teachers meet at another time. So you would at least be on the same campus and able to do this. Where I really see the benefit of this is with our departmentalized teachers. So you may have a third grade teacher. Well, at each school, you have 1 third grade ELA teacher. You have 1 third grade math teacher. 1 third grade science teacher, so you don't have anybody else to plan with. We try to put all the ELA teachers together, but they're not teaching the same stories, they're not teaching the same skills, so you really don't have that support. And then I think about our new teachers who are really trying, and we're really trying to coach them up. If nobody else does what they do, they don't really know. Because our mentor teachers are trying to study their content and teach, but they're also trying to help their mentee, but they're having to learn their content to do it, and it just is not set up. Or you look at the way this would, all the opportunities that would come out of this. Our literacy meetings and our MTSS meetings could be very devoted to certain grade levels. And I'll bring this up at this time. Right now, we have an interventionist at each school. And so this is the person who is analyzing all the literacy goals and they're working with and pulling your kids out. At Grayson Elementary, this teacher is tracking and trying to provide services for 285 kids as opposed to 145 kids. What I really need to do is hire another interventionist out there, but I don't have the money because I'm spending it here. So I don't have a room because we don't have the room for it. So by putting them together, it allows us to equally distribute and make sure that every kid gets the attention they need and doesn't fall through the cracks. Being on site, occasionally we do try to get them together, but you have to arrange for subs to cover classes and drive down, so it doesn't happen as often as you would hope it would. It's just because you're at a different site that makes it difficult. And of course, just being able to focus like on phonics or things that are very grade specific is important. And then we'll finish up with the student experience about this. And this is where we really start getting excited. Because now all of the students in the grade level will have the same opportunities for field trips, the same opportunities for programs or experiences, no matter what school it is. I can't tell you how many times I hear, well, Grayson is doing this, why don't we get to do this? Or Columbia is doing this, or Central is doing this. If you have the ability to plan something that all 4th graders get to go to, then every 4th grader, regardless of where you live, gets the same opportunities. And so when you're only trying to plan for 2 grade levels, you can really tailor those activities to be perfect for that grade level. Right now you're trying to plan PBIS or AR awards for kindergarten through 5th grade, and 5th graders don't like what kindergartners do, and unfortunately that just divides your thinking time. If you can just focus on 2 grade levels, then you can really enhance that student experience. Of course, the students will benefit because when teachers can work together and support each other and go to the classroom next to them and really see how this lesson looked in real life, then come back and do that with their class, kids are going to benefit. I know they will. Thematic opportunities, if you have a story that you are studying in a particular grade level, then the art can go along with that. The music can go along with that. Everything in the school, I think about pre-K, and when you study the letter M, everybody gets to dress up like a monster or whatever. You can have those same experiences at each school, and every kid gets to participate in them. Things like junior beta, we don't have that at every school. We're starting to try to get that, but if we have it all together, we can make sure that we really focus in on students at those levels and give them those opportunities, 4-H, Clover Buds, and STEM. And of course, we will have to redevelop our sports program. I know back 10 years ago, this was the biggie, was what about elementary football? I get it. I have athletes for sons, and that would be a big deal to them. So we've talked with the junior high and the high school coaches, and we're like, you know what? We have an opportunity to build a program that's going to be exactly what you want it to be at the next level. And so we would need to get them together and decide, do we want to do it like an intramural where you have an A team, B team, C, I think red, white, or blue? We don't know, but we want to build that program. There are several opportunities that we can do and make sure we do this right so that we are building for each level. But we definitely want to make sure our students have these opportunities to hone in on their crafts or participate in the programs that they want to. Okay, so that's all positive. Here's all the hurdles. These are just ones that we have identified. I'm sure you probably have some more, and we'll be looking for that information. This picture was intentional because I know this is the biggie here. It's not the first one we'll talk about though. First one is assignment of teachers and paraprofessionals. What I really want, and in a perfect world, every teacher who's at a grade level would go in that same grade level. But I understand that some people don't want to leave their school, or they want their content, and the worst thing I could do is put a teacher in a spot that they're miserable, because that's not good for kids. So we're trying to figure out how could we give teachers a voice in what they do. And so what we're looking at is possibly kind of creating a matrix where they can say, this would be my first choice, this would be my second choice, this would be my third choice, and try our best to kind of match those things up. And then of course you have to look at their certification, because everybody's certification looks different. If they've had the required science or reading training, any prior teaching experience or performance. So you're looking at all those things, but I know that that's a hurdle we'll have to work through. But I think we can do it. I'm pretty sure we can do it. And at least try to find an area that makes people happy. Transportation. This is the big one, and I'm sure this is why a lot of you are here. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have a plan because I've never driven a bus. And I don't even pretend to know what it's like to drive a bus and do all of these things. But I will tell you that on Friday I met with 17 of the bus drivers, and after we talked about this, they already had some great ideas and things that I had never even thought about, well, we could do this or we could do this. And so I said, you know, we're going to have to depend on y'all to sit down and figure this out. We can go watch and see how they do it in Gina. And so it may be that we have to adjust the start time by 10 minutes. And then it may be that we have to cross paths to make sure that we're not loading up. One big concern that came up from bus drivers was the time, of course. The second one was separating the car drop-offs from the bus drop-offs. And so I was like, whatever we need to do to figure this out, we want to make it work. And I know that they're capable, and I'm going to tell you, y'all, they already called to see if they could use a boardroom this week to start working on planning this out. Because it may be that some bus routes change. It may be that they don't. It may be that they drop off at their home school and work their way around. It may be that they start. We don't know, because we need our bus drivers to help us figure that out. And so it's something that we know is a hurdle, but I know we can do it. There's 4 miles difference between Grayson and Columbia. I know we can do this. We definitely have to have a committee of bus drivers to help with the logistics. Coach Wells is already color coding things to make sure that we make sure different routes are. So there are lots of opportunities. I will say option 2 is not, I'm not a fan of it, neither were the bus drivers, but I'm trying to be transparent that it is an option that has been put out there, was to create a transfer location. Apparently they did that in Clarks. I learned that from Facebook. They used to drop off kids and you'd wait there. I don't think that that's probably a good idea in this day, but it is something we could consider. So some projected hurdles that we know are going to be things we have to figure out is we may have to adjust times. And when I say adjust times, it may be 10 minutes and then an additional 10 minutes. Because we know that if you're bringing your kids back and forth to school, you've got to have a routine. And I do it. I've done it because I spread my kids out so far. But I've always had one at the high school, junior high, and elementary, or the pre-K. And now I've got 2 at the junior high, but I've got a grandson at Central. So I'm constantly having to figure out where do you start first. So we'll have to take all those things into consideration. We have to think about, are there going to be more parent drop-offs because of this, or will more kids ride buses? I know that currently, and I know when I was at Central this was the case too, but if you had kids who were at a high school, junior high, or pre-K and at Central, I had lots of parents who would just come to Central and wait for all the kids to come, and then they would leave from there. I know they do it at Columbia, from the pre-K down, so you don't have to go through both of them, but we would just have to figure those things out, and it's going to look different at each school, how we would make that work. And so we would have to figure out also car drop-offs and pickup times, because we don't want you to be late for work, and we're not talking about trying to make anything hard on, we're not trying to hurt people, we're not trying to hurt parents. We're just trying to think of all the things we can do to give our kids this opportunity. Teacher and staff, we're definitely going to have to work on how we're going to get their students, if they have to be signed in at a certain time, how we're going to get their students to the next school that they need to be. And so that's just going to be us sitting down and working through these things, but I know we can do it. We got some smart people in this district. All right, so our next hurdle is community buy-in. I know, we don't like change. I understand completely. So communicating this is going to be key to us, because we've got to hear your concerns, your questions, and your suggestions. So we knew we had to meet with faculty, inform, answer questions, gather information, and decide which Christmas program I'm going to go to, because they're all at the same time. And so we're going to have to sit down and say, you know what? I'm going to do this during this month. I'm going to do this during this month. And so it may be that we don't have a Christmas program at every school. You may have something in the fall, or something at Christmas and something in the spring, because we don't want to wear you out. We don't want you to have to make decisions on which kid I'm going to go support, or which parent I'm going to send, or grandparent. We know we've got to make some adjustments, but we're willing to do that to make this work. Because again, we're not trying to hurt anybody. So those are some of the things that we kind of thought about. So here's the timeline. We are in step 1, where we're just beginning the conversation. This is not a done deal. Okay, we didn't try to slide anything by. We are simply having a conversation about this. We didn't know how people would feel about this. So we need to inform employees, parents, and community, and ask for feedback. And then step 2 will be the February school board meeting. It was supposed to be tonight, and then when we talked to the board members, we were like, we don't want to rush through this presentation. We don't want people to feel like they don't have an opportunity to talk. So we moved the board meeting to Monday. You're still welcome to come to it. There are protocols. If you want to talk there, you got to get a white card. You only get 3 minutes, but we'll have all that posted. But we decided to move the board meeting to another night to give us plenty of time to get through this tonight. Step 3 is gathering more feedback, adjusting the proposal where it needs to happen, listening to employees, listening to parents, listening to community members about ways that we can adjust this or not, And then step 4, they'll vote on it in April. Okay, and so that gives us plenty of time to consider all the pros, all the cons, all the adjustments, and still have time to plan for the next year. Because if it passes, we know we've got a lot of work to do to make sure that happens. So I'm just going to, they call me the unicorn, because I'm always looking for the positives in things, and that's what I see. It doesn't mean I don't see the negatives. It doesn't mean I don't see the hurdles, but I know we can work through those things. So what we have here, and I'm just going to put this up here, and you're welcome to do it. We have surveys, okay? And so this is a QR code if you've got your phone, and you can scan it. We'll have them all out here, so I'm not asking you to do it right now. But I do want you to know you're going to have a chance to say, these are the pros, these are the cons, these are the solutions, okay? And I'm going to print, if you do it electronically, I can print it all out in a spreadsheet and give it to the board members to see. We will go over it. I've learned a lot based on the information I gave just to teachers and cafeteria workers and bus drivers on Friday. So that's what we have there. We have one for employees and one for community members. But then at this time too, I know that several of you have probably things you want to ask or want to say. So I've got some microphones here. And if there's something that I said or something that is left unanswered and you want to say, just raise your hand and they'll bring you a microphone so that you have an opportunity to say something. Here, right here. Right here. Yeah. You need a mic? Here. No, I want everyone.
I just want to say that I'm not in favor of this, but I love Nikki, and I know that her heart's in the right place because I've known her my whole life, and I know that she's praying about this decision. And I just want to ask all of us to stop right now and pray about this, because these are our babies. I mean, this is our whole world. And aside from these beautiful, talented people that sit over here that I know have our children's best interest at heart, y'all work for us. You work for our community. You're representing our children. You're representing the taxpayers in this community. So you really need to do what your community wants you to do and what we pray and consider to do. So again, I disagree with Nikki, but I love her, and I know her heart is in this. And she's like the most brilliant teacher ever. And it's funny, she said something about Maslow. I'm a nurse. If you know me, you know that I'm a nurse practitioner, but I'm first and foremost a nurse. I went to this high school. I went to Columbia Elementary School. I went to Caldwell Parish Junior High School. Nothing was mentioned about the problems of the junior high, but this is the problem of the junior high. Okay, we need to put the right spirit back in our schools. We need to put the Holy Spirit back in our schools. And I want to thank the man that was on that school board meeting. I don't even know him, but it's Mr. Barry Glass. I found that out, that said he would just be happy to pack his toothbrush and go to jail for saying that he believes in God. So I'm just going to say this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if we're going to use Maslow, because I have a baby in first grade at Columbia Elementary School. She sucks her thumb still, okay? She does. And she loves her school. Erica, she misses you. Okay, a lot of your talent that was at Central 10 years ago when they were the top school in the parish is sitting over here as administrators now. And when you're a nurse and your floor is in trouble, what do? Where's my nurse friend? She left with her baby. What do when your floor is in trouble? You go and you fill that position. You go and you take care of the patient, okay? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your basic needs, before we can do self-actualization of emotion, before you can get to self-actualization, which is where the art and the music and the fun things happen, this basic pyramid. And by the way, the food guide pyramid is expired. It's no longer. That's what you get when you use government tools, government ideas. Rustin's going back to the old school way, y'all. It was on KNOE last night. They're going back to the old school way of raising our babies, okay? Physiological needs, food, water, warmth, and rest. If I don't make it to Columbia Elementary from Judy Ferry by 7:25, Grace doesn't eat breakfast. She told me that the other day. The bell rings too soon, okay? We get up at 6. Tim and I get up at 4:30. Safety needs and security. This is in no way an insult to anybody. I love you people at Central. My brother and sister went to Central Elementary School. You're taking my children off Church Street, and you're putting them where there was a stabbing last week. I'm sorry. I'm a mama. I'm scared. She's in first grade. belongingness and love and needs. That's the next one, y'all. Belongingness, intimate relationships, intimate friends. Have you ever been in a big hospital versus a little small town hospital? What kind of care do you get? What kind of relationship do you get? In a small hospital, in a small school versus a giant school. And by the way, close your ears, Tim. I dated a man in Zachary. I dated a high in high school. Zachary's a town. It's a town. It's a big town, but it's a town. This is a big parish. Judy Ferry is like 25 miles from here. Okay? I love you, but I disagree. It's okay.
And it's okay to disagree. It absolutely is, and I know that there's a sense of if you don't think the same way somebody does, you can't say anything, and that's absolutely not true. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate your words. I don't want anyone to feel like this plan is to hurt people, and I do believe in Maslow's as well. I also have confidence that our teachers can provide those things better this way. And I want to make sure, I don't think it's putting them into a big school because you're still going to have smaller class sizes. It's just actually a distributed number of about 220 to 30 kids per school, which is what we have at some schools and not at others. So I don't want anybody to think that we're dumping them all together in that we will. It's just that the attention will be grade specific as opposed to entire schools. But I do appreciate what you said, and I know that that's real. I know that is a real feeling that many of us have. I can tell by the applause. And I appreciate that. I do, Laura. All right, anybody else? Yeah, Jeffrey.
So I just have a few questions. What, Justice? So you said that we had a teacher shortage, okay? 5 teachers, 5 teachers.
We have 5 positions that are not filled by,
Positions that are
yeah.
not filled, okay. A lot of your administrative people are bachelor educated, previous teachers. Can some of those people rotate from the administrative side into some of those teaching positions to fill them short term until you get the teachers and then go back to the administrative people? Because the kids are first, right? So if the kids are first, then we put the teachers, the educators that are able to educate in the classroom as opposed to in the office space. Okay?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, I've done that last year.
If we can answer that question.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So in some cases that is happening. You have Miss Smith who has taught classes. You have Miss Hillstead and Miss Watts who are teaching classes because we can't even find substitutes in some cases, so we do. Now, on a long-term basis, and I can't expect you to understand this, but if we don't have people in administrative roles, things don't get taken care of. And so there is a lot that goes on at a director's level, a supervisor's level, principal's level, and even an instructional coach's level. Miss Delinda tried this past year to do it without a coach and was burning herself out to the point where I had to say, you've got to hire somebody. She said, I know this is going to take a teacher out of the classroom. And I said, you are no good to these kids if you don't get somebody here to help you help the teachers who are in the classrooms with the students. So that's just the hard fact of that answer.
Okay. Second question, the Zachary school that you referred to that has this system, are is their infrastructure on the same property, say they're in the same buildings, or is it like like you're proposing to where the elementary school is downtown Columbia? Is it the same? Is it apples to apples logistically?
I do not know the answer to that. I went,
Okay.
but it's been 10 years. Did anybody who went, do you remember?
The reason I ask that, the reason I ask that is because if the Zachary school has all of the grades on one property, you don't have the logistical challenges as we're looking at. So we want to make sure when we're
I agree.
talking about, we need to make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
And the idea came from Zachary. That's not the only school district that does it. I did talk to the superintendent LaSalle Parish because it dawned on me at this time, my husband's 67 years and this is what he did back then. And I said, did you ride the same bus? And he said, yeah, the bus just dropped you off at the elementary and then they dropped you off at Good Pine and then they dropped you off here. So I asked the superintendent, I said, how far? And she said, Good Pine is the farthest and it's about 3 miles. Our farthest is 4 miles. I've talked to several superintendents, and that's one of the things that the superintendent in Lincoln Parish said is it was too far of a distance. In Rapides Parish, they changed back because it was 17 miles. But it doesn't mean that we're trying to be Zachary. That's where we got the idea. And when you look at the proximity of our schools, 4 miles is not a long distance to have to drive. That's just what we were thinking there.
But Ms. McCann, Gina is a city. LaSalle Parish has multiple elementary schools.
I agree.
You got Nebo.
Mhm.
Those kids aren't driving from Urania and having to bus to Gina Elementary.
No, and that's one of the things that I think is great about Caldwell Parish is that for the most part, if you look at the whole map, everything is right here on 165. It's in the same, Grayson is 0.3 miles from here, Central is about 2 miles, and Columbia is 4 miles. So, I understand that. Everybody is coming, but everybody already comes to this campus. And so I'm just looking at the difference there. So, and I agree with you, I agree.
You had made a reference to the Louisiana Greenfields project.
Mhm.
I do agree with you. There are some challenges there that we're going to have to face. However, we should not change the entire structure of our school system based on one corporation
No.
endeavor. It needs, if it's going to change, that needs to be based on the people and the people's public opinion of the parish, not a corporation.
Yeah, and it's not the only reason. That's why I put those other hard facts in there that we have to deal with.
This is just a comment, this is not a question. You had said that teachers can't be put where they're miserable or they won't perform. You put kids where they're miserable, do you think they're going to perform? This is what I heard, I just wrote this down. No bus plan, 0.
Because I have bus drivers who are very capable of figuring this out.
What I hear today is no bus plan. Okay? What I hear today is no school choice. Okay? What I hear today is a logistical nightmare for parents, not school buses, because I had a school bus driver tell me there are more people bringing their kids in cars than in buses. So including us. So I'm not concerned about the buses. I'm concerned about the parents that are driving their kids. It's a logistical nightmare for the parents, okay? Safety concern. Number 1 for me, safety, my kids' safety. That's extra time on the road, okay? The road's very dangerous. I know, trust me, I know it's dangerous. I don't want my kids on the road any longer than they have to be. You're putting them on the road longer, okay? No answer on sports. Sports is so important to our kids.
I agree
It
completely.
is so important. And you just said, we don't have an answer for sports. We don't know what sports are going to look like. That is not good.
So if I had come to you all with this plan already built out, then no one would have any say in how the plan is developed. And I don't want anybody to think that I have all the answers. We are who we are because I have a great team of people who are very capable. That would be crazy for me to think I could have this all planned out. That's not where we are. We're in the discussion phase, and I have plenty of people who are very capable of building something that would work.
This is the last thing I'm going to say. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm going to speak for my wife, Laura. I may be speaking for everybody else in this room. I'm not sure. We like change. We are not opposed to change. What we don't like is forced change.
Hello. I'm just going to say a couple of words because I'm a nobody, but I got a kid that's in this school, or will be in this school, for the teachers that we're lacking, start spending your money local. I'm an entrepreneur. We're missing out on a lot of local money. Christmas on the farm this year, we made about 10 grand. It cost me 50 grand to do it. This may not be the place to represent this, but I just want to let you know that in Calhoun, they do 1.5 a year million, and I made 10 grand. Spend your money local, and we'll have money to pay teachers more that will be involved in our schools. I'm not sure with the decisions on Nikki. I love where her head's at. I love the thought of change. I think what we need to do is, my kid, I'm worried about her education. I'm worried about sports too. That's a growing process and we're trying to figure it out. That's why we're having a discussion about it. But if we can increase her education by 20%, because we're looking at other options, man, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the growth of her education instead of what we're doing now. You think I won't give up 4 minutes of time to drive to a different school for my daughter? I'm not saying this is still a thought for me. I'm praying on it. I'm talking about it. I'm looking over everything. I know for Nikki and these people that work at the school board, they're going to do everything they can for the best, absolute best benefit of our kids. They're not trying to force anything on anybody because they want what's best. They don't care about who's doing what at Gina. They don't care. They want what's best. They're not, even that, they're probably not concerned about you having to drive 2 more minutes to a different school. They want what's best for the kids' education. And that's what I want for my kids. I want the best possible education that they can get by the best teachers that we can hire. Spend your money local. Let's make the best decision for our kids and their education. Sports is 5th grade football. That's fun. We'll call it fun. But when you start getting into high school, that's 5th grade football we can skip. If my daughter don't get to play
I'm
band,
not saying we're going to skip it. No.
I'm saying no.
Don't put that out there. I did not say that.
No, I'm not saying skip it. I'm saying for me, I don't care about it because I got a girl. So, but
She's going to want to cheer, I know.
yeah, well, at that age level though, I'm saying I'm more concerned about her education at that age level than I am football or basketball.
And Nick, I appreciate you saying that, because I do want to keep reiterating that is the only reason we're having this discussion is because we believe that this would give our kids a lot of opportunities.
So, I'm a neutral, sorry, can y'all hear me? I'm a neutral party. I wanted to come and hear what y'all had to say, and I thought your presentation was great. I'm very much for academics. You know, I'm a nurse and a nurse educator. I'm sorry, I had to marry. But I'm a nurse and I'm a nurse educator. I educate at the collegiate level, so I don't have an education background, but I have an appreciation for all that y'all do. And I just know that at my level, we are undergoing nursing education. They've thrown everything up in the air, and we're having to change everything that we do.
They do that
And
information too.
yes, so it is hard, and change is hard. I like the plan. I do feel like this is the better thing for our children, but I do want to tell you what I don't like.
Okay.
I don't think that the school board should vote on this in April. And
I agree.
the reason is I
it's too
think
soon.
that we need to I like that you're involving everyone, because they do know what works and what doesn't work. I think we need to make a plan and then present that, and let's vote on it after we have a plan. And then that way, we don't all feel rushed. I know it doesn't answer next academic year, but I feel like we do have a serious problem and we want to fix now. But I've learned, especially in education, that if you do something and try to rush implementing it, you're going to encounter problems that you didn't think that you would have when you implement it. Because I voted to pass something, and then now I have something that I hate. that I work with every day. And so I've learned to be a little bit, you know, cautious. So I think, and I would advise Mr. Randy, that I would like for my district to table the vote, like, or whatever, I don't know how that works, until we have a plan, and then let's talk about it some more. And I do have a concern about the transportation, because I do, thank God, have people that take my kids to school and pick them up for me, because where I live, my kids would be first to be picked up and last to be dropped off. And if we staggered the start times, my kids would have to get on the bus earlier than 6 a.m. and would be dropped off about 5:30. Thankfully, my kids don't, but I know there are kids on my road that would. And so we got to figure out a plan for that, because that's too long. Okay?
I agree. Thank you.
Okay guys, I come to y'all from a little bit different background. So, when I came to this parish in 2006, I had a biology degree, and I was thrown into a classroom, and I taught here for 10 years. Through this parish, I got my master's in education, so I'm not coming just as a parent, because I do have kids in this parish. I have one at Columbia, and with this plan, I'm kind of neutral on the fact she'll stay at Columbia. You know, she's already there, she'll be there, because she's in 3rd grade now. And I have one in the junior high that's moving up to the high school. I'm already making that drive. I take my girls in the morning, but they ride the bus in the evening. I take them in the morning because we just can't seem to get ready and get on the bus. So I do that drive. We go to Columbia first, and then we hit the school here. Now, if we hit this school at 7:35 or after, which is the idea, because then you get to go down that side and go to the junior high. Don't come before 7:35.
Come before 7:20, that's what I do.
Then you gotta go down the long road of cars. But anyway, so the one thing that I see coming from an education background is that when I taught here, I taught biology, and a couple of years there were a couple biology teachers. And if we had an issue, like this kid and I are not jiving, we cannot make it work, then they had an option to swap to the other teacher's class, okay? But there were a couple of years that I was the only biology teacher, and every single kid that came through here in the 10th grade had me. They had no choice. They had just Misty Song. They couldn't go to anywhere else, even if they couldn't stand me, couldn't get along, couldn't make the grades. They had no choice but to be in my classroom, because they had to, because it was required. The deal with this is, if we have it where all of our teachers are together, this is not something I don't think you mentioned. If a kid is not able to jive with that teacher, then there are 5 other options to move around. Because not everybody gets along. Period, okay? And they would have some options. When I was a new teacher, it was jump in, sink or swim. You're either gonna make it, or you're gonna die trying, okay? So the deal was, because I had no education background when I started, okay? And I had one teacher to help me. I had Miss Morrow, thank goodness, okay? She was my mentor. I had that one teacher, but you know, she was busy. She had a lot on her plate. If you have all of your teachers together, then they can really help each other. I mean, truly, y'all don't understand having that support for a new teacher especially is so important. I wouldn't have made it without Miss Morrow, okay? But at some point, I wish that I had had more support, because like 3 months in, I realized there was this test making program, and I'd been cutting and pasting my papers together. And if I had had more support, I maybe would have known those things. But, so that's just what I want to say. Like, I think we really need to open our minds to this and see where it's going to help the educators and our students. Because they are already together in the beginning and the end. And we do see some issues when they come up to the junior high. I mean, we've been at the junior high for 3 years. And there are some issues there with them getting along with each other. But if they've already been together, we don't have that problem. Not as bad anyway. So, and the drive from Columbia to the junior high versus Grayson is not that bad. Because when I first started teaching here, I lived in Monroe, and my child went to Grayson, and it's not that bad.
Hello. At first, I was against this whole thing because I was like, how this gonna work? I don't understand how this gonna work. How you gonna combine all these kids and blah, blah, blah. But now that I get a better understanding of it, it's really not that bad that you combine the kids. You gotta look at it. If they're all, okay, Memoria, she's in 4th grade. 4th, 5th, you got all 4th and 5th grade together. If one teacher needs some help, she can step out the room and ask the next teacher that knows on that level with 4th and 5th grade, so that does make sense. 2nd and 3rd grade can do the same, so it's not that bad. The drive, the schools are bam, bam, bam. They right here together. Some of y'all stop by Sonic every morning to get a drink. Maybe you have to pass up that drink to get them to school on time. I mean, it's common sense. Let's make it make sense.
Here's your comic relief.
It is true. On another level, Central, I think a lot of y'all are based on Central. Because your kid's going to be in 2nd, 3rd, it's Central. And it's in the Brown community. It's not a bad school. Laura spoke on the staff, and that was somewhere else. It didn't affect Central. Central is not bad. I grew up at Central. That's my school. I'm Central forever. Look, my kids grew up in Central. I have 5 that went through Central, coming through Central. Central is not a bad school. We still gonna play sports. We're gonna get these kids to school. We're gonna get these kids through school. So I think all of y'all just need to chill, deep breath, and just realize that we need to do what's best for the kids. I had a kid in school, Miss Simons, whatever her name was, that just left from up here. She said all kids are not gonna get along. They're not gonna get along with the teachers. I done been up to that school.
She used to be one of those kids.
That's just that. It's either you're going to make it work or you're not going to make it work. Some kids not going to get along because, yes, I got one, Malik. Some of y'all know him, Malik Gully. They try to outcast him. But you got to learn your kids. Know where to step and where not to step. And kids got feelings too. Sometimes it's not the kids, it's the adults. Sometimes teachers do need to check themselves at the door before they go in and approach those kids, because kids got feelings too. They know if they're not wanted or you ain't feeling them this morning or whatever, you gotta leave it outside and take care of what needs to be taken care of. That's just right. I think all of us are grown and we know that. So that's just how I feel about that. Lamari will be at Columbia and everybody else is in high school, junior high, have a senior graduation, so it's not that bad. Let's take these kids, because when they had the summer program, a lot of y'all kids went. You took them to them different drop-off spots and dropped those kids off. You was there to pick them up at those different drop-off spots, so it's not that bad. Drive those kids to the schools where they need to go and get this done. I think it's a good thing that we need to go with this and put everybody together, because at the end of the day, they're going to be together regardless. When they get to the junior high, they together. They get to the high school, they together. Y'all trying to keep them apart. They coming together regardless. That's all I got to say.
I never know what's going to come out of her mouth. But I know I'm going to laugh every time she opens it. I had most of her kids.
Okay, hey. Again, I haven't made up my mind yet either.
Thank you.
I'm here to listen, as I hope most people are. So, at the end of the day, we do what is best for our children's education, whether that be change or no change. And a lot of my questions have been answered, and I do appreciate. Yeah. And it's coming from, a family that does have several educators in it. My grandfather taught here for 40 years.
He taught me.
I've talked to a lot of them, and I've talked to a lot of other teachers, And I do appreciate that they get a say-so, because that was one big thing to me, was like, he said, if the teacher, or you said, if the teachers aren't happy, the children definitely aren't gonna be happy, and our children should be happy where they're at. I do have a concern, and I have talked to a couple people, and I'm still not, my answer is still not completely there. But I put my child in the school based on rating. So I moved to my district for my child to go to a certain school.
Right.
And now there's the chance that she will be moved to this D school. So how is that justified?
Yeah, very good question. So, let me say this. Yeah. Central has a letter grade of a D.
That's my concern.
They do, and
the grade.
it's not the geography of it, and it has not always been a D. There are factors that have come. I don't want there to be this mindset that Central teachers are D teachers or Central kids are D kids. Their progress, and I'll say last year's progress was an A. The last 2 years before that was a B. So the progress is there, and y'all, I'm going to tell you, there are rock star teachers at Central, there are rock star teachers at Grayson, and at Columbia. There are also struggling teachers in each of those areas. But what has happened is because of that D rating, and y'all, it's right up there, and I can't tell you how hard, when the State Department comes in, because they're a D status, and the junior high was a D2 for a while. We received extra money to come in with extra supports, and so we've been doing that. I've watched this happen at the junior high with that extra support. When you have all of the kids, they're now a C and have been for 2 years. So I know what can happen when that comes together. But when you're at a school where the kids are continually moving out, you're not ever going to bring that letter grade up. And so what this would mean is that we would redistribute and everybody gets a fresh start. And I'm looking at those numbers. I'm trying to figure out those numbers. I've got my accountability person going to work on this for me to try to figure out where that would be. Because we know that when they get to the junior high altogether, they're a C. When they get to the high school, they're an A. So somewhere in there, we've got to figure out how to properly support our kids at every school, regardless of where you live, so that everybody has that opportunity.
Well, that's my concern, just because I know based on a score listed by the state, that's what I base where I want my kids to go.
Absolutely.
Not by anything else. And so it is scary as a parent.
I understand.
To say, okay, well, this school has this rating, so why? Will my kid not get the same education?
So what I'm hoping with this is that the teachers at your school now will go at their grade level. So it's not like, you're still going to have the same teacher, hopefully. I don't know if that will work out or not, because they may not do it. But my hope is that you have the same teachers, you have all your kids' friends, plus all the other friends too, it's just a different location. So it's not like I'm taking your kid out of one school and putting them into a D school in the same exact circumstances. So I hope that, yeah, absolutely.
Because I just don't want her to go from a highly rated school to a not.
I agree.
And
I agree.
because I am like most, I do take and pick up my child. So I only have one. So you all with multiple, I do feel sorry for you. I understand that is a big concern, but I will make accommodations for my child as long as I know that she is getting a higher rated education.
Absolutely.
And
that is the goal. That is the goal, is that we have the best from every place and we put them all together to support each other as we bring all kids up.
And then I just have one more thing. Will you make public some of the negative and positive concerns brought up by our teachers and our administration?
Okay.
And why I say that is because they see more than we see.
Who is that?
Like the teachers
Okay.
and the administrative
Okay.
personnel.
Okay, yeah.
And so they may have concerns that I don't see.
Mhm.
So I would like to know some of those to see if that persuades
Mhm.
my vote, I guess you could say.
That is a good question. Anything on that one?
Okay.
I don't have an answer on the spot.
I just want to add that just like we don't judge kids by its floor, please don't judge the school by the floor.
And I will say, as an uninformed parent, I don't know how they're graded. That was my concern. I don't understand.
And
how
you're
the
right,
school-
and you're right. Everybody's right. You get a car, you know.
What happens to Central if nothing changes? What happens to Central Elementary School next year if nothing changes?
Same, okay. What happens, that's a good question. What happens to Central if nothing changes? The same thing we're always doing. We're constantly working on, we are. The problem is that school choice has overcrowded our other schools. That is the whole, because y'all, we've been dealing with this and we've been pouring money in. Every time the State Department sends somebody, they come in and they're like, well, y'all are already doing that. You're already doing that. We don't know what else to tell you to do because you're already doing all the things. So it stays the same. It's just that now, Grayson Elementary and a couple of classes at Columbia and will continue because people do want to move to Columbia Zone because it is the highest performing elementary. So what's going to happen is you keep overcrowding those schools and it's not fair to those kids. It's not fair to Grayson's school who is overcrowding because the kids have come out. So Central would stay the same and those teachers are still going to teach and those kids are still going to come through there and we're still going to support them. So it would stay the same. Oh, well, I say that. Maybe they'll grow. Hopefully they'll grow. But we're going to still work. We're not going to quit doing anything.
So there's no chance that the state pulls the funding for the
No.
school? Okay.
All they do is they keep putting more money in and putting more money in. I have not run the numbers, but I want to run the numbers about how much money has been poured into Union Central and the junior high over the past couple of years with that D rating. Because it's a ton of money.
Have infrastructure improvements and upgrades been explored for Columbia Elementary or Grayson, adding infrastructure so that we get to keep our schools?
We have nowhere to put nothing, literally.
There's nowhere.
Our
Even if you wanted to
outside
add on
buildings,
to
we
it.
have our new.
The question is, has it been explored, has it
Where are you
been,
gonna put it?
has it been discussed to add it? Because it seems to me that you start small to try to fix the problem before you go big. And this is a big change. Explore the things, the small things like that. I don't know.
But have you been to all 3 campuses to see where you can put
That's not
something?
what I'm asking. I'm asking if the school district has explored the option before they make the rest.
With what money?
David?
We have no money because
Okay, we need more property taxes, is
we
what my
can't
business
have
manager
property
said.
taxes. Like nobody does.
Oh goodness, we struck a nerve.
What I was going to say is I'm a para at Grayson Elementary. I'm in computer lab. I see 285 kids a day. I am on what's considered the upper hall. So that means K, 1, and 2 have to come to 3, 4, and 5. Your kindergarten child is sharing a bathroom with a 5th grader. Have you thought about that?
Unattended.
Unattended, because we cannot monitor a boy's bathroom. I had kindergartners last year, Miss Sandage, I don't want to go to the bathroom because there's a 5th grader in there. Well, I can't kick a 5th grader out from the bathroom, have to stand at the door and hope they make it there and watch. Well, I have a class of 40 kids in computer lab. That happens.
That's happening?
That is real life. If you come and step foot into a elementary
Well, it
school,
sounds like we have some more serious problems than this.
but if you combine K1, you have kindergarten, 1st grade going to the bathroom together. You don't have a kindergarten boy go into a 5th grader boy's bathroom. Because we can't send them back down to lower hall unattended. They may get lost. They may go out a door to the front. We're on 165. We can't do that.
That is an issue that will be addressed. It's an issue that will be addressed. I don't think that's what she's trying to communicate.
No, what I'm trying to say is
that we, as if you center, you have kids that are the same age going to school together, and not a wide variety.
That issue shouldn't even be happening.
We have 285 students.
Sounds like we have a lot of policies.
We have 2 bathrooms.
Where are we gonna build another bathroom in a 150-year-old school?
If that's a problem.
We have to figure that out. We have to figure those things out.
I don't need that. When I came here tonight, I was really undecided. And actually, me and my family has been praying for the last year about maybe we should send our son graduates this year, he's a senior. Sending our child to a private school. That's a whole other situation, but anyhow, Nikki, I came undecided, and there are a lot of things that need to be answered before this is voted on.
Absolutely.
I would hope my school board member, Bo Barton, would be one of the ones that would table it. Guys, y'all don't vote on this in April. That's too soon. There's too many unknowns that needs to be straightened out before y'all vote on this. And I say this with my child staying at Columbia. She will go to 4th grade. So she won't even move. But I just think it's too soon. I think we should, like Laura said, we need to pray about it, but the school board really needs to look over it.
Okay, we're here because there is a problem. There is a problem, so we're here to fix the problems. Not saying that y'all just like exploding. There is a problem already with the schools. Okay, we get that. We're here, she's making a plan. It's not set in stone. It's not. So they're gonna make a plan. Mr. McKinney said they're gonna have everything out. She's already distributed papers to the bus drivers and everything to get everything in line. Nothing has got a submit button on it. But anything for your kids, you would figure, as grown people and parents, you would do what's best for your child for their education coming from Caldwell Parish. We're not a big system. We're not a big community. It's small as it is. I mean, come on. It's not that serious.
Well, and I feel like we've been discussing this. You know, in our district strategic, we've been talking about this for 10 years. Okay, and it keeps coming up and saying, is this? Well, now we looked at the facts that we're dealing with and saying this is a solution that we could do. So I'm very confident we could have a full plan ready to go way before April.
And you have some models to look at.
Absolutely. I mean, our bus drivers are already coming together and working out the logistics. That's the biggest problem. And we need the input from our teachers because I don't want to hand them something that says this is what it looks like. I want them to have a voice in how that looks. And so if we need to have this decided way before that so that there's a plan in place before April, not say if we will have that done before they vote. My concern about waiting another year is it's another year that our kids are losing this opportunity. And every year is so important to our kids. And if it doesn't go in this time and we do it the next time, it's better than not at all. But I'll worry about the kids that are there now and the opportunities that they are. And I know that our staff is going to bust their tails to make this work. I'm not going to put something out there that's going to fail. And I know that we have a team of leaders and teachers who are going to make it work. They're going to bend over backwards for teachers. They're going to bend over backwards for parents, for bus drivers to make it work because we don't have 100%. We don't. But we've got a lot of people who are for this plan. A lot of people who are. And it's just because we're having a conversation. We talked about it for 1 week and we already had a ton of support for it. And of course, I know you're probably not here because you want to support it. You're here because you are against it, or you may not be, I don't know. But I know that we have the people who can make it work, and they're going to bend over backwards to make it happen. I think there's somebody in the back who's raising their hand. Okay.
My question is, you want to have this plan in place by April, right? Do we have enough teachers to do this?
All right. Do we have enough teachers? We don't have enough teachers right now. The idea is that if we restructure, we can support those who are filling those roles better because they're with people who are teaching the same thing that they are. So I'm not looking to get rid of anybody. I mean, I'm looking that everybody would, I'm not trying to fire anybody or get rid of. Yes.
So let's just say if you are short fourth grade teachers, you're gonna put all these fourth and fifth graders in here, you're not gonna have enough to teach your fourth grade classes.
There would be, no, because we would have 6 in every grade level. And so, yeah, we'd have 6 teachers at every grade level. Yeah. They are. Not as many as we would like. And that's been the case for a couple of years, y'all. We have people that have a bachelor's degree that we put in a program to get their certification because we're just needing bodies. We're just at a point where that's the case anyway. This is the first time I've not been able to find bodies with a degree to put in classrooms. Absolutely, and Ms. Wiley's office pays for them to get certification at ULM, Northwestern, Louisiana Tech. I teach. We partner with Reach University for our paraprofessionals to go ahead and get their college credit so that they can become teachers. We've exhausted, and we're looking and trying everywhere. We go to all the job fairs. We try to steal teachers from other districts. We do everything we can to try to recruit teachers. The problem that I'm seeing, and I've been at this a long time, not as long as everybody. But I've gone from a time where I had maybe 1 or 2 uncertified teachers in my building to a time where over half of my teachers were certified through an alternate pathway. Like I did the traditional educational pathway. That is almost a thing of the past. We probably get 2, maybe 3 student teachers a year. The majority of our people are alternate certification. Used to, Monroe City and Ouachita would not hire somebody who was not certified. So I could count on getting all of the people from Monroe who couldn't get a job in Monroe because they weren't certified. So they'd come down to Caldwell, we would pay for them to get their certification, and we would train them up to be great teachers, and as soon as they were certified, what happened? They left and went to Monroe City or Ouachita Parish where they could make more money. Now some of them came back because they realized it's not the grass they greener on their side. But that was the case. Y'all, Monroe City and Ouachita Parish is hiring people in alternate certification programs. So we're not even getting those people anymore. So literally there are years that I go through my Facebook feed. Do you have a degree? Do you have a degree? Let me call this person and see if they want to come teach. And I've recruited we've recruited some teachers from other industries doing that. This is the first year we could not fill all those spots. And we have 5 of them.
Can I say that I am one of those 5 spots? Oh, well, Kim's bringing me a lovely microphone.
And she's doing a rock star job.
I am one of the 5 teachers. I'm not saying I'm for this. I'm not saying I'm against this. I am one of the 5 teachers that is in this classroom, or in the classroom, or para, that is in a teaching spot. My co-teacher is a retired teacher. She is a long-term sub. I have nobody to depend on. Nobody. Yes, she's been in kindergarten. I'm not sure what other grade she's been in. But she knows nothing about first grade. I'm doing the best I can with your kids. And I'm from Central. Yes, it is a D school, and that is one issue I have with everybody saying something about Central. Central is a rock star school. Rock star school. I debated whether they would even talk, but my admin's like, stand up, stand up. But my kids, we are zoned for Columbia. I live downtown, my kids are zoned for Columbia. My husband said, there is no way our kids are going to Central, no way. And I said, well, I work there, because at the time I was still a para. I work there, why not? Well, my kids went to Central. My kids make just as good as grades as all the other kids in there. My kids have not faltered in their learning, not one bit. I have a kindergartner who's reading on first, almost second grade level. Like, my kids have not faltered, not one bit from being at Central. And I could not ask, and I think that's my one con about all of this, I could not ask for a better group of people to work with, and I do not want to lose them.
And that's the current program.
And I am able to reach program, yes, I am a para,
And they're
Yes.
succeeding in the current program.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
yes.
Why is Columbia Elementary a higher performance elementary school? And why there are different grades? I want to understand that part.
And it was said by someone a minute ago that, we're judging by that score. Well, apparently the state is already doing that for us. We don't have to do that.
So what is the difference? Why we have these different high performance versus not high performance schools? 3 elementary, what is the difference? What is not?
The amount of kids.
So, overall, when you have more kids in the denominator, you have more that you can, and that's what I've seen over the last couple of years, is the lower your number is, the harder it is to get your score up. I would love to have this conversation. Yeah.
So, they were asking the question. I work at Central, and I've been there since 2005. So they were asking the question, we're a D school. We're a D school not because of it's not because of anyone's performances. You have to understand the struggles that we up against at Central. Number one, I'm just gonna put it on the line. This is a low poverty area school. We got behavior issues that come in our school. We're dealing with all kind of things that's coming to our school that we have to deal with that I know other schools are not dealing with. So it's not that we don't have anybody teaching. Because let me tell you, I give it 110% every single day at that school for those children. And I know what we're dealing with because those children come in, they have problems, they have issues, they have things in their home life that we do the best we can on a daily basis to try to help them with. So it's not that we're a D school because we're failing the children. We're doing everything we can for those children, but it is time for change. It is, because what we've been doing is apparently not working, and it's time for a change. Don't we gonna get the same thing for another year and a half? I have a granddaughter that's a 4th grader. My daughter said, I'm gonna pull out the parish next year. And I said, no. And she said, yeah, I'm gonna pull out the parish next year. So it's time for a change. It's time for growth. It's time for something different because the current is not working. And so why should we have to stay a D school and it's not working? We need to change. It's time for change. Our children need to change. And I know every parent is going to support them in whatever change we do, but we have to do a change. It cannot stay the same. If you don't want to, in this thing where I don't want to come to this school or I don't want mine to come to that school, it has nothing to do with that. We have a problem and it needs to be solved. And it's the only way it's going to solve, we're going to all have to come together. I don't care what color you are. We all going to have to come together as a parish and work for these children. It's not even about us. It's about these children. I don't care anything about the sports, but let me tell you, they are going to have an education to get out of this parish. They're going to have something to stop the parish. I know. I've had 3 children to come to this parish, and each one of them has made a good person out in the world. They have good jobs, and they come through Caldwell Parish. And I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of them. So there's nothing wrong with these schools. There's definitely nothing wrong with Central, because I would stay at Central. I'm there to help those children, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help those children. That's why I stay at Central, because I know that's where I'm needed. That's where I need to be, because you don't know the struggles these children go through every day. Only the ones that work at Central know. You don't know what we have to deal with. You don't know what these children go through on a daily basis. So it's not even about that. It's not about why we're D school. Let's figure out how we can make it better. And if this is a solution, then everybody jump on board and quit thinking about what your children will have to do. Or what, it don't matter. We all driving over Caldwell Parish. It's not that far apart. We act like we're driving to another school from that's not of this parish, but we're not, guys. And I know I'm talking like like that, but that's the way I talk. I'm not fussing. I'm telling you, I'm one of those parents that I believe in. If it's gonna work, let's do it. Because listen here, it's time for a change. It's time for our children it's time for us to move forward. And that's the only way we're gonna be able to do it. Change. We cannot go back this next year the same way. We're gonna get the same results. And everybody's gonna say what they want.
All right, back in the back. Yeah, we hear you.
So the problem that's at that school are gonna transfer to the other school. Correct?
Say that. I
The
can't.
problems that she just addressed are gonna transfer to the other schools.
I know, that's a fear. And so,
And another thing that you just said that I kind of have a problem with is y'all already discussed that. Y'all done made y'all's mind up. Y'all already know what y'all want. Y'all are just letting us be in.
okay, so those who have discussed it are not board members. It's the leadership and at the district level. We've been looking at this for a while, and so I never put something out that we weren't ready to say we can do this. So we've discussed it. The board has to vote on this. The board heard about this proposal right before we told the teachers, and we just said, can we have a discussion? Because we don't know until we start discussing it. So I do want to go back and address your concern, because that is a legit concern, is now you're going to put all these problem kids with mine. And I'm just hopeful enough to believe that if we, pardon? They do, they all go to junior high together. My hope is that they start together as little ones in pre-K, if you get to go to Kelly, and do that. But they start together. If they could go through together, then they will begin developing social norms of the group.
Okay. Well,
And so when you put, and I need to finish this answer there, because it's a legit concern, it is. But when you start putting kids together, then you grow up knowing what it's like to be around kids that are different. And we're not going to put all these problems, there are problems, but you know what? I work at the district level, there are problems at every school. You don't hear about them all, but I promise you there are problems at every school that they're dealing with. And so the idea is, and I'll just say, for example, when I was at Central, and I spent 16 years at Central, so I'm a little passionate about the school. All of my kids went through there, and none of them were zoned for Central. My grandkid goes there, he is zoned for there. But I mean, I am, because I know what goes on there, and I know, and I just have a heart for all kids. If I had problems with kids who couldn't get along with each other, and I may have a group of 3 or 4 or 4 or 5, sometimes there was 4 or 5, that I was trying to get away from each other so that they could not have to be cool in front of their friends. I had 2 classes that I could separate those kids. Pardon? Yeah. If you don't, then you can separate kids out amongst 6 classrooms, and they begin developing social norms according to that group. And so they're not fighting for what makes me cool here. They're learning from each other and learning how to get along with. And I'm not just talking about race. I'm talking about socioeconomic. I'm talking about learning disabilities. I mean, if you've never been in a school or a classroom with students who are on the spectrum and don't like certain things, you don't know. And so we throw them all into junior high. I see them all over here shaking their heads as 6th graders, and it's like, bah! We don't know how to get along with each other, because I've never dealt with anybody that didn't look and act just like me. And so if you do this, I'm not promising you that we're not going to have hiccups, because we are. But the longer we do this, the more we're able to unify and pull everybody together. Y'all, if you put it all together, you've got preschool, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You've got 8 years that they're together. We take them apart for 6. So they're already going to be together, but during those formative elementary years, they'll be together all the way through. And that's what we look at as a whole, is not that we're taking your kid and plunging them over here in something that they don't know. They're going to be going with their friends. All their friends are going with them. It's just a different location. And hopefully the teachers will be going with them too, and we can provide that better opportunity for them. That's the only reason we're looking at all of this, is because we do believe in specializing. We do believe that if we have the resources to really hone in at each grade level, that we're going to make an impact for all kids. And that's what we're here for, is all kids.
Well, it's part of growing up, having to deal with different types of personalities and different types of people.
Yes, it is.
And why are you going to put everybody in one school?
So they learn, that's not one school, there are 3 different schools.
Okay, well, 3 different schools.
Yeah.
Kids are going to have to learn to deal with other things.
Absolutely.
They're going to have to do that when they go in the workforce.
Our goal is that they learn how to do it at each grade level. That's the whole purpose of this plan.
So you're going to put a bunch of little kids that deal with the same little kids in one school, instead of dealing with other kids that are not going to be nice to them, not going to be friendly to them. That's part of it. That's part of life. Life ain't fair.
They are already together at the pre-K. They're already together at the pre-K.
I think what he's trying to say is,
And they won't be
those younger kids can socially develop with older kids by interacting with them some. I think that's part of development. Sure, it's good to have 2 grade levels together in some ways, but I think having that older group as an example in some ways from the good kids.
Mentoring.
They can socially develop. And everybody has different opinions here.
Yeah.
First of all, let me say, I don't have anything against y'all teachers. I support you 100%. I couldn't do the job. I don't want it. And I don't have anything against Central. I agree with the nurse that spoke a while ago and said, I feel like it's being rushed through. I think it's something we need to step back from, think about, make a good plan. I mean, parts of your plan look like they could work, and other parts I don't necessarily agree with.
And so you will have an opportunity, I see lots of people are leaving because I know it's running long, but you will have an opportunity to voice those concerns, like what you don't like about that in the survey. So I do encourage everybody to fill out. Before people start leaving, I'm going to give you just a second. I'll get right back to you.
There is diversity at all of our schools. I just want to make that clear. This is not about color. My children don't know, they don't see color skin. Some of their best friends have different color skin than they do. And I want to make sure that that's known, that we love our community schools. That's all the parents are saying. We love our community schools. I love that I went to Columbia Elementary and I looked around, and while a little girl, Annie Martin, saying, "Come and see what God has done." And there was families all over that auditorium, wiping tears. That's what we love. We love the diversity. Mackenzie Brooks goes to our school. She's my son's, he says he's going to marry her. I love Mackenzie Brooks. I hope he does marry Mackenzie Brooks. She probably won't have him because he's a little weird. I'm telling y'all, we love our community schools. Please just let the parents have input.
I would like to say, I'm a teacher at Grayson Elementary. I would like the parents to think about this. Everybody's mad. You feel like Miss McCann built this.
Wait a minute.
I mean, not everybody's mad. I'm not saying everybody's mad. Hold on, let me back up a little bit. Everybody says you don't have enough put out, you don't have a plan. How would you have felt had she come to you with this completely laid out plan? You all then would have said, you made all of these plans behind our backs and we didn't get any say-so, you didn't care what we had to say, you didn't care about any of that. Well, she is trying to take the community's input and she's asking that you all have an open mind. We have an overloaded building at Grayson, but we still wake up every day to meet our kids' needs. Union Central has a very unique population and they have children facing things at home that many of the other schools don't see. I might have students like that, but I have 1 or 2. So I am able to cater part of my day to taking extra care of those one or two. They can't do that because that's all of their kids almost. No, it's not all of them, but it's a lot of them. If we do this, you are taking that special population and you are dispersing them. So then that special population can get that attention from their teacher. You can spend the time to make those relationships and possibly, quite possibly, hopefully, change that child's life. Wouldn't you want your family to be able to have your child have a friend that needs their life changed? Your child could be best friends. That's my hope. And bring that child into my home to where I can change their life. If we stay in our cookie cutter little schools, that's not going to happen. Do you want it to happen now to where we can all assimilate? Or do you want it to happen at the junior high when they're beating the snot out of each other some days?
Part of
It won't happen if it happens in kindergarten. They're staying together since pre-K. They will know each other forever.
What are you going to do with special needs children?
We already have them.
Yeah.
What about one that's deaf?
The same thing we do now.
That would ride the bus from Hebert.
No, they have a
To
special
Grace.
bus for that.
There is a special
There's a
education.
So
special
you're
bus
going to
for
take
that.
a second grade, like say he's in pre-K, you're going to go pick up all the pre-K special needs children.
They do
in
that.
the whole
We do that now
They
for
do
the whole
that right
band.
now.
Okay, can
I work at the preschool, so I see all of our teachers. They collaborate every Thursday, and they work together. We have a brand new teacher. She's able to go to her mentor teacher's room, and she can do a model lesson to see how well that she's teaching, or if something didn't work for her class, she can go in there and learn a new way to do it. I will have a 4-year-old, and I have an 8-year-old. So I have a kindergartner and I have a 4th grader. I was in the baby boom of 2014. So I'm affected by that my kids will be in 2 different places. I also have to be at work at 7 o'clock. I have to sign in. So my kids will be having to ride a bus from here or there or wherever. But I feel like Ms. McCann and the whole leadership team have our best interests at heart to make this work. Because last year, my child was at Columbia. He had 26 people in 2 different classes because there was a 3rd teacher that quit. I don't think that's fair. My child struggles. He has ADHD and he struggles. And I don't think it's fair for him to get pushed to the side because there are 25 other kids in that class. I think this can work. You just all need to be open-minded and let it play out.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay. I just kind of want to piggyback off her just a little bit, but I just want to start by saying I'm in big favor of this. Probably not initially, but after I heard it all, I was like, oh yes, this is going to be great. I'm one of those teachers that she was talking about that has 24 kids in her room. If you walk into my room, and I've got several parents out here that have seen my room, you kind of got to walk like this in between your desk. If somebody comes in, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have anywhere to sit, just stand. You know, like we're smushed. We're smushed. But guess what? We make it work. We love each other. I love all my kids, and I would still love any kids that I got. What the beautiful thing what this would bring is all 1st grade teachers, I teach 1st grade by the way, all 1st grade teachers would be in the same exact building, probably on the same exact hallway. What works for one teacher with a specific student that may, for instance, struggle in math, they may have ideas, tips, and tricks for me to help with that specific child. There would be resources available. There's just so many positive things that would come from this. Like, I can't even express it enough. Like, collaboration out of this world. Me and my co-teacher are always getting together. We're trying to think of stuff. We had Miss Williamson come in, and in the first week, we both learned something new. Because she used to teach 1st grade. So shout out to Miss Williamson. You know, that is something that our kids need. They need that in their life. They need to have the best education, and we would be able to give that to them by just all of us being in the same building. 1,000% in favor of the plan. You're welcome.
All right, thank you. One more? Yeah.
I've had a child that has been in a numerous school
in Texas for a while. There is a lot of pros, but there's a lot of cons. I think for me personally, I mean, everybody's got their own opinion, and I have one too. I do not like that school system at all. As far as transportation, I am a bus driver here for our school system, and transportation is not the issue for me. The only thing I'd have would be drop off and reloads. That would be the only issue I'd have. But not only did my child, she did not do well in that larger school with just the single grades, whether it be discipline, too many kids in the classroom, whatever. But I think in the real world, there are a lot of age differences, age barriers, where some people do not. This is just one of the things I've thought about. But you have a younger person who may have graduated and they get a job somewhere and they're with older workers. How do we socially integrate with the older people and the younger people? How are they going to learn that? I mean, I personally like K through 5th being in the same school. I like Laura said, the community of our school. Yes, we have a good meeting in our class, but we don't have any issues with that, with her personal class. Now they might down in the other grades or so. But I like the fact that they can have older friends and have younger friends and have that mentoring from the older kids. I know I've had one at Central, and they could say points or something like that, and they could redeem for different, it's like a little pass or something. And I remember one of them was they could go work in the cafeteria, where they could go help with the concession stand. Or I know some of the older grades, they saved their points so they could mentor like the kindergarten. And I really like that. But like I said, that's my opinion. I'm against it. And I have a lot more reasons behind that I'm going to sit down and write down and address our school board members with.
And again, I encourage you all to do the survey so that we can hear, because not everybody had an opportunity to talk. And I know this is a lot of information to process. We've been talking for 2 weeks about this, so and Jessica, one more out here.
That's all of it. I agree 1,000%.
Can we have more Mary Wiley's to walk around our
Miss Wiley, I think she wants you to walk around all the schools and enforce all the discipline. Is that what y'all heard? Oh, wish the state would, yeah, I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Yeah, please don't put that on the.
And I do think, and I agree with you. And I do think that we have challenges that we cannot address in the same way that we addressed when you were at school. And one of the benefits that the principals and I have discussed is that when you're tailoring your positive behavior to certain grade levels, you can figure out what works to motivate a 5th grader to behave, because it's going to be different than what motivates a 1st grader. And so if we can, yeah.
When I was a sub, I was in a 2nd grade class, and a little girl got mad at another little girl and told her she was going to chop her epic head off. What's her exact words? She was sent to the office, came back maybe 45 minutes later with a sucker. It's not going to stop. We don't discipline them.
I agree.
And that, I believe, is our problem. And we got to do something with these kids. They're not being disciplined. We had a kid the other day that his mama was called because he had pot in his pocket at school. What was done? What was done? Nothing. Nothing.
Look at her face.
I'm sorry. I'm a school bus driver.
23 years.
School bus driver. I went to Central. I graduated college. My kids went to Central. They graduated college. 2 of them. Hopefully 30 will take that. But as a school bus driver, I think y'all missed the point. Safety should be first. Safety. And back to the stuff coming into the school, I see things that y'all don't see. As bus drivers, we see stuff that y'all don't see. I have 60 kids on my bus. I am unsafe. Basically, with the route I have, I drive Central. I know where the teachers are coming from. We got to have discipline. I personally I'm not going to haul my load from school to school to school.
So what I need?
I'm not going to do it. It's going to be unsafe. I'm going to have an aid, or I'm not going to be able to haul my bus.
So I encourage you to join this committee of bus drivers who's trying to figure that out, because your route is very different than everybody else. And I'm just saying, that's what I told bus drivers last week, is I can't tell you what it's going to look like because I don't wear your shoes. Everybody's going to have to come together to figure out, and it may mean that the route changes a little bit. It may mean that we have to separate. Another bus driver said if you're not zoned for schools, you don't necessarily have to drive a certain. So those are things that need to be worked out. I encourage you to join that team so that your voice is heard in the planning of that and how that might look.
But it goes back up to discipline. Again, I got to have some help from the schools to discipline my kids. Well, you know you should be mine.
There will be.
Is there a plan for raises for our people?
Well, so, absolutely. And I wish that, David, yeah, we're dealing with some budget issues, but we're fighting every year for the state to give raises. And one of the positives that we have noticed is our sales tax check. And that is, we have the 1 cent sales tax that is for all employees. Because it has been so good for the last couple of years, we've been able to give that second check in December and still keep that one in June the 13th. That is continuing, and my hope is that it will continue to grow so that our teachers, I do think they're underpaid. We don't have the money. I mean, we have obligations, and the state does not, that's a whole nother soapbox to get on. But listen to the board meeting and you'll hear that. Y'all, I know it's getting, you got one more?
So I will have children in each school. I'll have a kindergartner, I'll grader and I have a fifth grader, which is fine. I'm starting to warm up to this because I grew up in a small school as well. But my issue is my children already get up at 5:45 in the morning. And I have an autistic son that doesn't like change at all. He's very routine oriented, very. And he tends to have meltdowns if things are changed.
Right.
So, will there be things to implement?
Yes, yes.
Even on the bus?
Even, does he currently ride a bus?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Y'all, we'll work this out, and we're trying not to make it affect their wake-up times. I mean, but that's something I'm counting on bus drivers to figure out if we have to stagger some times or not, but they'll still have the same time in school. We've got to work that out. I had a meeting with 2 SPED teachers last week to try to figure out how this was possibly going to look, and I foresee lots of meetings where we sit down with SPED teachers and say, what do we need to do? I don't welcome any SPED parents to come, any parent come talk to me, and we'll work through these challenges. Absolutely. Those are things we've got to consider, and we've got to think of all the different angles. So, absolutely, we will. Again, it's not planned out for a reason. It's a proposal that we're discussing, and we're trying to build it together. I'm very confident that we can put something together in plenty of time for April. And whatever the board decides to do, they've got 2 months to try to figure this out. Time is running, and I know lots of people have left, but y'all please fill out the survey so that we can hear your input. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, please call me, come talk to me, and let me hear from you. You know, talk to your board members, talk to your principals, talk to your teachers. Just have an open mind about the possibility is all we can ask for. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're going to continue doing the very best for our kids. We just felt like this was a time to at least begin the discussion. So, thank you. If you need help doing the